halts PENGASSAN from cutting gas to Dangote Refinery as industrial court grants a 7-day order against union's action. And his union barricades NNPCL and other regulators' offices. A strike set to begin. And court today has made a statement on Professor Pat Utomi's plans, restrained Utomi's from forming an alternative government framework. And the court shut down the shadow ruling highlights supremacy of constitution over political experiments. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I am Sean Wakimale here in Abuja. Let's bring you up to speed with one of your biggest stories in the land today. And it came from the courtroom, where the Federal High Court has ruled that the country's constitution makes no provision for a shadow government, striking down an initiative led by political economist Professor Pat Utomi. The judgment followed a suit filed by the Department of State Services, which argued that the move threatened peace and security. Justice James Omotosho declared the plan unconstitutional, reinforcing the supremacy of the 1999 Constitution in defining governance in Nigeria. Part of the issue that was considered today, as pronounced by the court, is whether or not there is jurisdiction and there are exit reasonable causes of action. The second is whether the shadow government is recognized by the Constitution. The court declared the action of the defendant as null and void and thus unconstitutional, and that the association he registered with the CAC meant to sponsor the shadow government is ultra-vires, thus unconstitutional, and also that the association that he should do whatever he's doing to form or join a political party to run or provide constructive opposition instead. The third issue, which was whether the service sued and action is a violation of the defendant's fundamental human right, because the action of the defendant is dangerous and non-justifiable because fundamental rights are not absolute but have limitation. The court also said there is no violation of defendant's right of freedom of speech or association. He gave a perpetual injunction restraining the defendant or his representative or associate or any other person in Nigeria from establishing a shadow government or any similar body not recognized by the Constitution. After the judgment, the court recommended the DSS for being proactive in his action. So much to talk about tonight. I will be reviewing for you what we've seen play out today. There's a lot that has happened, from the different offices of NNPCL to NNPDRA, PENGASSAN, TUC, and the affiliate organization were busy. They picketed most offices in the land today. Well, the plan is to put pressure on Dangote, who they say has laid off about 800 of their members and who will be out of jobs. But Dangote has gone to the court to say, court, do not allow PENGASSAN or any of these associations, these unions, to cut off gas, as it says it's inimical to the economy of the nation. But we're getting all the inside. Northern leaders are gathered in Abuja also today, and their plan is the economic future of the northern region of the country. We'll be getting inside. And one of those who spoke at the event, one of the leaders of the North, will be speaking with us tonight on the program. But before we get into all of that, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, says President Bola Tinubu remains committed to ensuring inclusive development across Nigeria, with no region left marginalized in the nation's progress towards growth and prosperity. He was speaking at an inter-ministerial press briefing in Abuja, part of activities to mark Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary. Mr. Idris noted that under the Renewed Hope agenda, President Bola Tinubu is laying the foundation for a national renewal anchored in prosperity, peace and unity. He therefore called on all Nigerians to collectively participate in nation building and reposition Nigeria for a greater future.
Nigeria has also defined its role in peace and security, making significant contributions to United Nations peacekeeping missions around the world.
And the federal government has declared Wednesday, October 1 as a public holiday to mark Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary. The Minister of Interior, Olubimi Tunjojo, announced this today. In a statement signed by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Magdalene Ajani, the minister congratulated Nigerians on the historic milestone. He urged citizens to continue upholding patriotism, unity and resilience, which he said has kept the nation together since its independence in 1960. The Zamfara State government has organized a budget town hall meeting across the 3 senatorial zones of the state as part of efforts to ensure inclusiveness in its 2026 budget preparation. The exercise, organized by the State Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, is aimed at gathering citizens' contributions, identifying community needs, and ensuring transparency in the budgeting process. Addressing the gathering, the State Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning, Mr. Abdullahi, says the government will carefully study the inputs from various sectors and align them with its development priorities. And the national coordinator of the Peter Obi 2023 presidential campaign under the platform of the Obedient Movement, Dr. Yunusa Tanko, has pledged to register the presence of the movement across the 774 local government areas of the country. Mr. Tanko disclosed this in Damaturu, the Yobe State capital, at the inauguration of the state and local government area executives ahead of the 2027 general elections. And from Adamawa State, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, has issued a fresh ultimatum to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Babachir Lawal, and other prominent figures to regularize their membership status or risk losing recognition in the party. But this was disclosed by the Adamawa State Chairman of the ADC, Shehu Yohana, after a meeting of the party in Yola, Adamawa State. According to him, the party has launched a comprehensive membership registration exercise, stressing that only those who have membership cards at their respective wards will be recognized as members.
There you have it. You've been served with your political roundup stories. So let's begin by some of the latest coming in from the courtroom today. We've seen Dangote taking some legal actions and getting some nod from the court, pending when all the matters are going to be resolved. There are also boardroom intervention. Now, Nigeria's National Industrial Court has stepped into the dispute between the Dangote Refinery and the country's oil workers union, PENGASSAN. The court has issued a 7-day order restraining the union and key petroleum agencies from cutting gas and crude supply to the refinery. The ruling comes amid nationwide protests and barricades at oil sector offices, with union leaders accusing the refinery of sacking more than 800 Nigerian staff. Dangote, however, says the layoffs were part of a reorganization prompted by safety and sabotage concerns. Let's also show you some pictures of earlier meetings where the federal government was intervening in the matter, and we saw the meeting between the federal government, Dangote Refinery representatives, and the union leaders meeting here in Abuja with the hopes of resolving what has become a major crisis and a saga that has continued over the past months or so. But tonight, let's get some insight from one person, not only that he's also a Nigerian who is concerned, but interestingly, the major reason for inviting him on the program is about the northern leaders who have met today about the economic future of the northern region of the country. But incidentally, he's got a lot of knowledge into the issue that we're going to be discussing first before we discuss the economic issues in northern Nigeria. I'm being joined by one man who knows the oil and gas sectors, who was practiced in the private sector. Now, as the governor of Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule is live for us here on the program tonight. Thanks so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Nice to have you again.
Thank you so much indeed. You see all of what is happening from last week, Friday, Thursday or so, when Dangote, the story about Dangote laying off staff, and when PENGASSAN gave a warning, and on Saturday they had their NEC meeting, and they said that from Sunday night, they are going to start taking decisive action, and the federal government has intervened. Now, Dangote is going to get an expatriate order stopping them from cutting gas. It's a whole lot to chew at the same time. But from where you are sitting, from your perspective, what do you think exactly has caused this dispute? What do you think has gone wrong?
I think what has gone wrong is the gap in communication between how a private sector runs an institution and how government has run an institution. Before joining Dangote, I was the managing director of African Petroleum. I had in African Petroleum what you call PTDU, that's actually the Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union. You have the NUPENG, that is the junior staff of the oil and gas workers. And then we had also the PENGASSAN, that's the senior staff of the oil and gas workers. But because AP was originally government-owned, so all these institutions that were managed exactly the way NNPC manages them and the rest of that. However, Dangote is a private company, and so his approach to managing unions will be a little bit different from the way government manages unions. So that's the reason why I'm very happy today. In fact, we were at the Northern Nigerian Economic Summit, with the Minister of Finance, when he now informed us that he was rushing to this same meeting that you referred to. And I think the federal government has taken the right step, because the Dangote Refinery in Nigeria is not for Dangote alone. It's bigger than Dangote right now. It's for Nigeria. It has saved Nigeria so many issues, so many challenges, so many problems. Nigeria may no longer be worried about what they call, turnaround maintenance, where billions of dollars were being spent. Nigeria may no longer worry about all the ports were filled up. Therefore, the ships bringing, petroleum products could not berth. And as a result, you do that. Nigeria will no longer be worried, about fertilizer, petrochemical. So many things. And that's the reason why the company was built by Dangote, but today it's bigger than Dangote. It's for Nigeria as a whole. And so I will actually appeal, to PENGASSAN, as well as the Dangote management and the federal government to ensure that this is resolved without even going to court. Because these are partners that are going to work together for a very, very long time. So Dangote Refinery is here to stay. And it is not only for Nigeria right now, it's exporting petroleum products to so many other countries around the world. And for that reason, we cannot afford, to have any challenge with that institution. So if I'm going to approach it, from the point of what is the solution, I think the first is where the government has intervened right now. But after resolving it, we have to draw a timetable. I will give you an example. When I was running the Dangote Sugar Refinery, the way it was being run with unions is quite different from a government-owned Savannah Sugar was being run at the time. So because the way we manage unions was different from the way they were managing at Savannah. We were managing unions, we were members. Our staff are not too deeply involved with union activities to where they will become chairman or members or this, because we had work to do. There is quite different kind of work. But whatever the unions agreed, the benefits that will be given to the union members, they were given exactly that, sometimes even more than what the unions were asking. So that's the way it was run before. And that's why we didn't have much problems. And I think that's why I say there is a gap of communication. So the PENGASSAN as at today needs to sit down with Dangote clearly to understand this, because we can't afford, a situation to run down an institution such as this. In fact, the world will laugh at us. That's the way I look at it.
But if you look at the accusation from PENGASSAN and the affiliate union groups, they've accused Dangote about the handling of workers. How would you wake up one morning and lay off 800 staff? Dangote on his own says reorganization, issues of sabotage. We know what it takes to, we have an idea rather of what it takes to run a private interest company in Nigeria. No one may have an idea of running the biggest private enterprise in Nigeria, which Dangote runs. Is the largest employer of labor, private sector-wise, in Nigeria. So you cannot fill the shoes exactly the way Dangote wears them. Exactly. He can tell you exactly how it is because he has run it before. And the manner in which things run, especially when unions are unhappy. And I know a lot of, and I've worked with different private interests. There are some private organizations who don't just want the unions to work because they know that union activities can stifle the development of the work. But how do you balance that in any case? I mean, when Dangote says, look, there is a new thing happening in the sector, and because people are not used to it, they will fight back. Is it the enemies of Dangote fighting back, or the system is really not adjusting to the new way? Because we've all had 4 refineries owned by government, the first ever private initiative of this magnitude in oil refining in the country. So a lot of things might not just be usual. For example, and you know very much well about how this thing works. The issue of tank farms, for example, it's a child of necessity, which came because we had bad pipelines being sabotaged and all of that. Trucking and carrying fuel from one place to the other on our roads had messed up our roads for years, and it's because the pipeline which to deliver this oil is also broken. So these are the problems. The owners of tank farms will not be happy. 4,000 CNG gas that Dangote bought is broken that sector. They will not be happy. Dangote operating upstream, midstream, downstream. They will not be happy. One man, they feel Dangote is becoming too big and is enjoying too much of Nigeria. Is a monopolist. The monopolist tendency is in him. Is Dangote chewing too much? Is he being unbearable in the way manner he runs things? What is your objective view on this? You know, Nigerians, we love this idea of monopoly, this and this and this. For instance, now, Dangote is not in power. And you know the challenges of power we are having in this country. Tomorrow, if Dangote decide to go into power generation, power transmission, and power distribution, they will say he is doing that. If you build a refinery and you do not have outlets, you do not have a way of selling the products, you do not have transportation system, you don't have agreement with some of these petroleum product marketing companies. You cannot sell directly to IPMAN. You cannot sell to DAPMAN. You can, all these associations, then you don't know your business plan. Because when you are building a business, you build a business in totality. You say that when Dangote started with cement, it was, this is cement, come, buy your cement. Bring your truck. If people were not bringing trucks, Dangote say, okay, I buy trucks so I can deliver for you. Then they say it's monopoly. So... But is that how it operates in other climes?
That's
where an entity, and I'm the literature I know about the industry, yeah. You do not have the 100% holistic license to operate across board. No, that's what I imagine.
No.
Can any individual have that tendency to operate all of the licenses that operates within the oil and gas sector?
BP.
Oh, he does? BP does?
I work for BP. Okay? I was working actually for Amoco, not even BP. When BP bought us over, and the same thing with most of these other companies. They are doing exploration. They have their refineries. Shell has their own refineries. They have their trucks to do transportation. They have petrol stations to sell. Now they are diversifying into renewable energy so that they can also do that. That's why I say when you do business plan, you have to do it in totality because you don't want any gap.
So Dangote is not doing a new thing?
No.
When you were in Texas,
yes,
and some of the refineries that operated,
yes,
and is Chevron involved in all of these, all of the streams?
Yes.
So because I see Chevron in the U.S., the Chevron filling station that you find.
Exactly.
So the same thing NNPC does, right?
Exactly.
That NNPC run refinery.
NNPC has MPDC, okay, which is doing the development aspect, which is the same thing as SPDC.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is doing now the exploration and production aspect. They have the refineries at least in 3 places, in Port Harcourt, in Warri, and in Kaduna. Whether they are working or not is a different matter. They have trucks. During the period of Gaius Obaseki, they started now having, in fact, the first one they had was the one actually in Lagos, just by their plant. It was a Texaco station, just there on Kingsway Road. That's the one they had. And from there, they are now they have so many all over the country. And that's what NNPC is doing. So that's not
Dangote is not doing anything new.
No.
Is it a system that is now not used to the way Dangote is running things?
I'm not.
Or is this all politics? Or is Dangote not playing the politics right?
I'm not even thinking it is the system. Because I heard your statement earlier when you say the system is not used to unproductivity. It's not even the case. I think what has happened clearly is that gap in communication. I think what will have happened from the beginning, I saw it the time that Dangote himself, took the unions, when the refinery was being built, and took them through the tour of the refinery, and all of them were excited. So I think some of the discussions that probably will have taken place, some of the understanding that will have taken place have not taken place. But as I said, I'm so happy now that federal government had intervened, which is the right thing to do, because it is not in the interest of federal government to see institutions running down, no matter how small they are, not to talk about this humongous institution of Dangote Refinery. So I think that is the bottom. So they are going, I don't even think it's about laziness or that. Dangote is running so many other businesses. How come we're not having those problems? In Dangote Sugar Refinery that I was running before, we didn't have trucks. We were using outsiders' trucks. At one point, the outsiders were failing us. We bought our trucks. By the time I left, we had over 500 trucks with Dangote Sugar Refinery alone. We were using outsiders' trucks in the past. It's the same thing if you go to so many of these institutions over and over and over. You have to look at your...
And there are those who say any organization, private interests, have the power to iron fire. Whether or not, to the extent in which Dangote wakes up one morning and says, 800 people get behind the gates and I don't want to see your faces any longer. But going forward, because...
I don't even think that's what happened.
But that's how the unions have been...
No. I don't think that's what happened. Because you said that twice now. I don't think Dangote will just wake up one morning and say that 800 people gone, I don't want you. It's not like that.
It's alleged sabotage. It's alleged reorganization. I mean, he's saying it's a bit too reorganized. Those are the words that are being captured in Dangote's...
Dangote woke up one day and employed over 4,000 employees to build that refinery when it started. By the time they finished, they had over 10,000 in building that refinery. He didn't just wake up to do that. Therefore, he will need people to run that refinery. Whether he wants it or he doesn't want it, he needs competent people to do that. And all those people that I'm talking about have been sent for training. Okay? The distillation unit alone of that refinery is equivalent to 40-story building. You can't afford, in any system to have something like that broken down. So you need people to carry on with the operation, and the operation is 24 hours. It keeps going. So I think that is the idea. I don't think that's exactly what happened. I don't know exactly the details, but I think I will leave it there.
Let me ask you, how devastating, if you, and I know to a large extent how some of these plants work, you can't afford to shut them down. Because the effort it takes to get them, if you cut gas to Dangote, how devastating could it be?
Terrible. And we had that before. And again, let me go back to the same one of Dangote companies that I'm talking about, the sugar refinery that we run. Anytime we had gas cutoff, you had the liquor in the system. And the way the liquor is, it must keep moving. If it doesn't move, you shut it down. In fact, it now becomes rusted and stuck to your pipes. Sometimes you have to cut those pipes out. It's something very similar to the oil refinery. So it is not in Dangote's interest to cause any commotion. And no responsible human being in Dangote as an employee. And I'm very happy with when I saw the pictures with the kind of people that I saw. If Dangote is not serious about resolving this, you will not send somebody like Mr. Edwin there. Mr. Edwin is the one in charge that is handling the meeting. So you are sending the top of Dangote. They are the people at the meeting. So, and I think and I'm happy the president of PENGASSAN himself also was there. The minister is there. So I'm sure this problem will be resolved.
My worry, Governor Sule, is that there are a lot of people who are not happy with Dangote within the sector. Even in the pricing, it's taking the world to them. And he's made the pricing to look like a Makosa dance. He takes it up, brings it down. One of the things that a lot of competition doesn't like, right, is when they think that, well, there is the manner in which we run things here. You are the new kid on the block. You need to, see the way we look at things. And when you come the new kid on the block and you are railroading everyone, people are not happy. I'm imagining the Minister of Petroleum himself, he's the president of the nation.
At what point did he take the price up? You see, if you look at it...
He has adjusted his pricing a few times.
Yes.
Which, you know what that means? Because he's not the only person in the market. People will go for the price that favors them the most.
So is it good for Nigeria or bad for Nigeria?
I'm just stating what is happening in the sector.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that maybe it's time for President Tinubu, who is the Minister of Petroleum, to now step in, don't you think?
No. Today at the meeting we had of the Northern Nigeria, the person who represented the president and in fact read the speech of the president, the Minister of Finance. So so he now told us that he was rushing now to this particular meeting, to show the seriousness. So I think the president wanted him also to represent him at this. So when you see him there, and I think that's why I say the people that I see at that meeting shows some level of seriousness about resolving the matter.
So the reason why I'm saying this is sometimes there needs to be a permanent solution to this.
Correct.
Because there will always be dispute. Dangote is out to make money. He spent money, he took money somewhere, or entirely his own money is a fraction of the entire investment.
He may not be necessarily out to make money.
He's a businessman. Governor Sule.
No, he is out in that business in order to contribute to the economy of the state, to actually resolve some of the challenges we are having about fuel scarcity, to save our, so many problems. You don't know the problems we face each time we are looking for FX from the central bank. Each time we wanted to import raw sugar. Each time we wanted to import materials. Each time, so as the problem was being solved, it's also solved for him. Okay? So that now there will be enough FX to do other things. But since we are not spending this money to do importation. So yes, in any business, you will make money. But there are times, believe me, where making money is not just the only reason why you are doing it.
Yeah.
That's just the point I'm making.
Yeah. So in this sense, and I'm imagining, if you go some other countries, they take energy issues as national security issues. Because when your energy sector is on its knees, the nation is on its knees. You cannot produce, you cannot move, you cannot act, you cannot do any other thing. And in this manner, I reminded the president of PENGASSAN yesterday about what Abacha did when PENGASSAN and NUPEN, because of the June 12 junta, when they came, and the military junta at the time, the military dictator said, look, arrest MKO, PENGASSAN, NUPEN dissolved. I will appoint caretaker committee to take over whatever. And it's because of the frustration of the government of the day to say, should we then now critically be looking at possibility of managing situations such that unionism and activism doesn't shut down our economic line of productivity?
Agreed with you 100%. And that's why I say the communication gap. I think everyone needs to know the level of where you stand. Union, why are you in unionism? You are in union in order to protect the welfare of your workers, in order to protect their health, in order to ensure they are getting this, they are getting that, they are getting this. If the company says, you know what, whatever it is that you want, I will do. But we are also there in order to agitate and fight and shut down. You say, okay, this part I don't want. So that you can communicate clearly. So you say, how do we do in order to get there? The reason why it's difficult in Nigeria is because PENGASSAN cannot run differently. At least that's the way they see it. They cannot run differently with the independence and the freedom and so in a company like NMPC and then come into another private company owned by Sheun and say that, okay, here they are going to have limits about how they are going to do. I think that's the problem. So, and I think that is where the discussions will have to take place. Yeah.
Let's go on a break, Governor Sule. But when we come back, the future of the economy of northern Nigeria is paramount, and that was up for conversation. I'm interested that issues of mining, exploration of natural resources came to the forefront. But how will that be achieved? We've heard that and seen that in the past. Where did the groundnut pyramid go? And what lessons have we learned as a people? A failure of leadership or a lack of foresight of the followers? What exactly is wrong with us in this part of the world? We'll be back to discuss more on the future of this country after this break. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us. So today, the Northern Elders Forum put together an economic summit which was tagged Unlocking Strategic Opportunities. And the conversation in that summit focused on mining, agriculture, and power. What an important subsectors to discuss. But in that conversation comes the issue of the federating units and their role in national development and how critical the northern region, its potentials are for how Nigeria can reposition itself not only for local growth, but also a global placement in development. So Governor Abdullahi Sule has been speaking with us on the program tonight. He's one of the speakers, and you could see leaders of the region, some governors and some of the federal cabinet members at that meeting. But how critical is the northern region, especially when you see Northern Elders Forum at the center of this kind of discourse? Let's get back to the conversation with Governor Abdullahi Sule. Thank you so much indeed for staying with us. So you look at mining at the north as in abundance. Agriculture, the groundnut pyramid was a towering economic thing a lot of Nigerians could make reference to, but that is in the past. Power, there are those who believe that the north can even generate enough power for it from solar, because of the kind of sun that comes on that region of the country. But what has gone wrong? Because we need to identify the problem before we now start shooting for the solution. Why has the region seem to have forgotten all of the potential that it has, and now is backwards? It's terribly backwards in terms of, on the national level, backwards nationally. What do you think are the issues that bedeviled this kind of lack of development?
There is no single reason that you can say this reason is the only reason why we had all these problems. It's actually a combination of so many factors. Lack of focus on the part of leadership, lack of commitment on the part of leadership. Sometimes policies of the federal government about imports and things like that. Lack of sufficient power in the country in order to power all these industries. As late as somewhere around the year 2000, 2001, when I was MD of African Petroleum, most of the industries in Kano and in Kaduna were operational. How did I know? We were supplying them diesel. Diesel became too expensive, they couldn't survive. And in fact, they couldn't compete with foreign goods coming in. That's part of the reason why some of them actually shut down. Lack of infrastructure and lack of funding. So these are some of the combination of the reasons. So when people keep saying that it's leadership, it's not just leadership. You have so many other problems lying up. Now, with the discovery of oil, free money coming to every state, we relaxed, and thinking that the oil money was going to be forever. And for that reason, that's where the lack of focus came in, about waiting for tomorrow. Because at the time that you are making it so well, that's the time to plan for tomorrow. So I think we forgot to do that plan. So today, God's so kind, we have abundance of opportunities to correct some of these things. And I think that's the whole idea of this summit. So I want to use the opportunity really to thank Professor Abdullahi, who is the leader of the Northern Elders Forum. They came together with another group called the Northern Economic Agenda Initiative, to be able to come up with this idea of the summit. And like you indicated, the summit was going to be now specific on 3 major areas. We don't want to go and pick up, building, manufacturing of an aircraft or this and that, because sometimes we come up with some humongous ideas that are not practical. So we
White elephant.
White elephant ideas. So they came up with really these 3 areas, and that's what made me so happy about the presentation. In my presentation, I mentioned to them that, okay, agriculture, in fact, even power and mining will not work until we tackle security. And we better stop blaming anybody for security. Let every state on our own take some initiative to resolve our internal security challenges. Every state at the moment has some resources to a certain extent that if you design your plan so well, you should be able to handle your internal security to a certain limit. It's not just about empowerment, to take free money and give to some other people also. It's not just that. There are so many other things that we need to do in order to resolve our internal security challenges, not continuously looking at federal government to come in and then solve our problem. Because if that's the case, we'll continue to be frustrated. Yeah. So that's the idea.
Yeah, and you are one person that's traveled a lot, and I see that you are doing a lot of stuff with the East. I'm talking about Asia, specifically China, and I'm aware of some investment of Chinese interest in Nasarawa State, in the area of mining, in the area of alternative power sources, and in the area of electric automobile development in the state. So there's a whole lot, and agriculture also. I understand how much Holland, for example, has invested in Nasarawa State. So a lot of things are happening. And I want to plead with you. And I have conversations, and my interest so much in political economics. And you know of the special economic zones in China, for example. You go to India, you go to Bangladesh, is a big thing in the East, and they have all of these economic zones. Every aspect of these economic zones in China, if you want to buy automobiles, there is a place you go to. There's a zone. If you want to go into solar and whatever production, there's a place you go to. China has all of this specified, and I was waiting on how the northern region, for example, we streamline, like you said, into simple areas to say, let the Northeast focus on this particular product. Let the whole world come, and instead of everyone just going here and there and everyone. And in fact, I'm one of those who thought that psychologically we could come together and say, federal government, get economic funding and say, 3 states, we're funding you to start producing so also. Let there be a business in a pitch for it, so that after some years, you run it as a business. We see what you can produce. There'll be local production in those areas. In the next 10 years or 15 years, every aspect of this country will have been developed. But Is it that we lack a futuristic planning of economy, or what exactly is wrong with us? Or we've lacked leaders who cannot sit down and think about this nation, but they think about political parties, themselves, and now?
To be fair to Mr. President, the last NEC meeting he attended, this is exactly the way he spoke. We are going to form a committee. Federal government wants to actually have grazing reserves. Federal government will pay for that. Federal government will engage agricultural activities in every one of these zones. What federal government wants is to ensure that they are located, at areas where there are already functional infrastructure. Federal government is going to do this exactly like what you said. And today, we ended up the event by signing a charter that we are going to pursue we resolve completely that we are going to pursue shared interest. There are certain states that are extremely good in so and so crop. We concentrate in that area. There are certain states that are very good in mining, even the mining. Today, the minister was saying that we can concentrate on mining lithium in places like Nasarawa, concentrate on mining gold in places like Zamfara. Okay, today he just mentioned that. So, and that's why I explained at the meeting during my own speech. I said, for Nasarawa, we look at areas of competitive advantage. We are not going to be looking for areas where we are not strong. If you are going to bring any areas, something maybe about rearing cattle or something like that, we say, here, we are not very good at that. We may not be able to do that. But if you bring the areas where we are strong, I say we are not just looking for investors, we are also looking for partners where we will invest. In most cases, what we like to do is that we will acquire the land, we will prepare the land, we'll even provide some infrastructure, and that will be our equity in the business. And then somebody comes in, and say, we want to invest, because the private sector is better in managing businesses than government. So come in and be our partner, and we'll take in from there and tell us our equity is 40%, yours is 60%, or is 50-50, or is 30-70, whatever it is. Then we go in that manner, but every state must pick area of competitive advantage.
And I think guess what? I know you are a fashion-oriented person. You're sophisticated like that. When you talk about Louis Vuitton, talk about Dior, you talk about Hermes, Chanel, what is common to all of it? They are French fashion brands. Paris is known as a world fashion center. New York, London, and Milan, they have their own. But Paris is known for fashion. What happens to our hide in the skin in northern Nigeria? Why are we not producing the... What has happened to us? And that's why we really need to start thinking. The Adires in Ogun State, in part of Kwara, and part of Oyo State. What has happened to them? The Chinese companies are now producing cheaper Adire and bringing it and reselling it to us in Nigeria. That is malady. And I think that effort for us to think, to internalize all of these things and see how we can have a benefit of an advantage to the rest of the world is important, Governor.
It is. It is important, and that's why I'm telling you that we are having, I hate to say it so you don't think it's political, a renewed hope of direction. That today we all understand our challenges. Today, any leader today that is saying he does not understand the challenges and where they came from is not worth to be a leader. Because we all understand how our people are feeling. We all understand today the hardship that our people are in there. We all understand the problem of lack of education, lack of healthcare facilities. So all these things, they are clear to us. Okay? So it is for every leader to now say, you know what, for my own area, my own constituency, my own state, this is my focus. If everybody will focus on that, there is nothing wrong with people saying that, hey, let's do yams in Nasarawa, let's do yams in Benue, let's do yams in some part of Taraba. Okay. So that particular zone is known
it's
for
known
yams.
for yams.
Yeah.
And
There
everybody...
there is nothing wrong with that. So it's not just about one
let's
state.
go on a very quick break. Okay. If you hear about the city called Marbella, it's one of the most visited sites out of France. And why? Or Spain, rather. And why? It's very small, relatively small, because everybody wants... The people of that area are very much aware of what hospitality can be. Ekiti State is there. Osun State is there. Bauchi State is there, where we can internalize and wake up the economy of those local areas. But that gets our attention. The future of this country and the economic prosperity. We'll be right back to conclude our conversation. Thank you so much. Our closing moment with Governor Abdullahi Sule on the prosperity, on the prospect of the economic conversations they had today, Governor Sule. If there is one thing that we need as a people to wake up to right now, from your experience in the areas of mining, and what would that be?
I think first is going to be agriculture before we go into mining, because nearly every state in the north can do well in agriculture. And as I was telling you earlier, I have watched your program 2 days ago to look at the contributions to real GDP. Today, oil was only 4%. Communication was like 11%. But agriculture, 26%. 6 times oil. If you tell anybody, there are some people will not believe it.
It's unbelievable.
And this is exactly what has happened. The real GDP today, for the second quarter, agriculture was 26%. That's the highest contributor. So if you now expand agriculture, you do more in agriculture. Every state can do that. We can now be feeding other countries that cannot do agriculture. Niger, Cameroon, Chad, Mali, this and that, you can all feed them from here. So that is on one side. On the other part of it, this mining that you are talking about is actually going to be a replacement for oil. Now, one of the areas today that we focus on was power. I heard you when you say northern Nigeria can actually generate enough power from solar. But northern Nigeria is also lucky on other areas. The AKK line is starting from the north, is ending in the north. It starts actually from Ajakuta, after the gas is coming all the way from Delta, to Ajakuta, Kaduna, Kano. On that line, you can actually do what you have. Another bigger advantage we have in this part of the country? Hydropower generation. We have the dams. We have the waterfalls. We have, so these are all.
So there is nothing stopping the region.
Nothing stopping them not for growing.
The people need to just stand up and start doing.
That's it. That's it. So forget about all the meetings, forget about the summit, forget about the talking, because I don't even like to talk too much. To talk on this today, go to this meeting tomorrow, just do it.
Thank you so much, Governor Abdullahi Sule, Governor of Nasarawa State. A lot of lesson for us as a people. We need to start doing. If not, the train is moving. And all the countries they are graduating. Rwanda is moving. Ghana is going. Kenya is going. Thanks so much indeed for your time, as always.
Thank you so much.
That's our show today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Akimale. God bless Nigeria.